Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode. I'm yours truly, Culture Shock. We're here to discuss the Week 6 matchup between the Arizona Cardinals and the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts wound up walking away with this victory, 31-27. It came down to the final 2 minutes of the game. That game was insane, just from start to finish. And before I get into it, I'd like to appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all platforms to the Culture Shock Podcast. We are located everywhere. But let's go ahead and hop into this game. So before the game even started, the game was wild. We lost two players before the game started. Anthony Richardson went out with an eye injury with the resistance bands. Like, he hit something in his eye, had to be hospitalized. So he's no longer the backup quarterback. In my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, what in the world is going on? So when that happened, Riley Leonard's the backup. And I was like, could be worse. So that situation happened. Colts fans went on social media talking about, trade him. He's getting traded because of the rumors with Trey Hendrickson and stuff like that. A lot of people speculated that he was going to be sitting out to this game due to him being traded, which wasn't the case. He literally got hurt before the game. I didn't speculate anything. I just was like, I want to know what's going on. Because when they dropped the news, Shefty and them was talking about, Anthony Richardson's inactive. He's not playing. And we're like, what happened to Anthony Richardson? And then the news come out maybe like 20 minutes later that he injured his eye in the workout and was like, before the game? Like, how does that even happen? So that was weird. And then we lose Mooney Ward. Travarius Ward went out before the game happened. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is going on in these pre-workouts that these players are getting hurt? Like, are they playing football? So he gets out with the concussion, and it's like, how do you get a concussion with no equipment on? So then the video dropped. He bumped into Drew Ogletree in reps. In his reps, he ran into Drew Ogletree and knocked him out cold, like flat out cold. So we're going to be out. We won't have a cornerback one for about 2 or 3 weeks. So that happened. We lose Mooney Ward. So in my head, going into this game, I'm like, we're about to lose to Jacoby Brissett as a backup quarterback. In my head, that's what was planned. That was literally in my brain. I was like, we're going to lose to Jacoby Brissett. And lo and behold, the Colts get the ball first, come out the gates, open a drive, bam, touchdown, Tyler Warren. Drove down the field, easily perfected it. It was beautiful. And then the defense comes out, boom, a good solid drive. They forced the Cardinals to punt. But then the Colts lay a goose egg on a few drives and wind up punting the ball. Rigoberto Sanchez gave the ball to the Cardinals, and the Cardinals wound up coming down and actually scoring. So it was a rushing touchdown. Right after, the beautiful Tyler Warren drive, Knight wound up running it into the 1-yard line and scoring almost towards the second quarter. And then, coming into the second quarter, we like, all right, we got to figure something out. So Daniel Jones wound up taking himself, running down the field for a 3-yard run and getting into the end zone. Indiana Jones touchdown, running it in. And then Bagley hit all his field goals. Appreciate that. Then a few drives stall. At the end of the second quarter, they wind up kicking a field goal. And then in the third quarter, the Cardinals get the ball back. So they wind up scoring before the half, and they getting the ball back. And we're like, here we go. So the Colts defense wind up going missing. Couldn't find the defense to get a stop at all. Jacoby Brissett found Trey McBride, who was killing us the whole game. Trey McBride winds up catching a touchdown, and then they wind up scoring. And then we wind up coming down later on in the third, kicking a field goal, couldn't get 6. And then the Cardinals come right back down, and then they score a touchdown due to a penalty, holding penalty, but they still wind up scoring. Dortch wound up running that in. And then in the fourth quarter, lo and behold, Josh Downs wound up catching a beautiful pass in the back of the end zone from Daniel Jones. That was pretty much at the beginning of the fourth. That was good. Later on in the fourth quarter, the Cardinals wind up coming down, taking the lead again with a field goal. So I'm like, oh, gosh, here we go. And lo and behold, Jonathan Taylor wound up turning it up a notch. And he had a beautiful game, a very solid game. And he wound up running a touchdown to give us the lead back, and then the field goal, and then the Colts wound up holding the Cardinals to not scoring in their red zone, which was amazing. So that was the scoring summary. But overall, in general, I think Jacoby Brissett had an amazing game. Both defenses was terrible, I would say. to say the least. Both defenses, anybody could have scored in today's game. Both defenses was struggling the whole game, honestly. But the Colts, they kind of was out of they didn't have their CB1, so they had a lot to do with what the damage was being done. Mekhi Blackman was getting picked on. Jonathan Edwards, the rookie, was getting picked on. Blackman had a good game, though. But Edwards, the rookie, he had a huge task at hand. But he held his own on a few reps. But a few of those reps, he wound up. Wilson was just walking up and down the field. Him and Jacoby Brissett are going to be besties by the end of this week. You can tell that for sure because every time he found Wilson was available. He was making some crazy catches. But Trey McBride was moving like a wide receiver for what I can remember. The run game for the Cardinals was non-existent. Jacoby Brissett did most of that damage. But the pass rush for the Colts has to be discussed. The pass rush was non-existent. And again, in another week, DeForest Buckner being double-teamed, Grover Stewart, he being smothered in the middle. But the edge rush was just non-existent. Quiddy got him once. Latu won a few of his reps and couldn't go home with it. It's just something that the Colts is going to wind up penalizing them moving forward. The pass rush has to get the quarterback. Jacoby Brissett was looking so athletic, man, just wiggling through the offensive line, finding time, taking time on his throws. Just was not rushed in in majority of the game. He just looked like he wasn't rushed. He just took his time and made his play. Almost had 400 yards in the air throwing the football, which is unacceptable. Now, of course, the adjustment to, studying film and things like that when Jacoby Brissett last minute when Kyler Murray was announced that he was inactive, I understand. But most of these guys on this Colts team knows how Jacoby Brissett plays football. I called him play action guru when he was in Indiana. He pretty much did the same thing in Arizona. This was his first start, and he wound up dissecting the Colts defense. But the Colts defense stood tall when we needed them to. So we got to give credit where credit is due. But in general, like I said, this pass rush defense has not looked good at all this season. It just has not been getting there. They look better dropping back in coverage than wind up going to get sacked. And that's unacceptable. This edge rush has to wake up, and they have to figure something out as soon as possible. I know trade deadline's around the corner. A lot of people are talking about Trey Hendrickson and, Max Crosby. But the Colts got to make a move at secondary and now at pass rush. But pass rush has been the issue since the beginning of the year. A lot of money invested in that pass rush, but a lot of these guys is not getting home. Now, of course, they got some pressures. Tyquan Lewis had a solid game, forcing pressures, but they just, it's just like finishing your meal. They just couldn't get the sack. There was a lot of chances they were there, but they just couldn't. But the run defense was beautiful. The run defense for the Colts was there. It was alive. They did a lot of damage. As expected, the Colts run defense has been doing a good job, so we give credit where credit's due. They've been improving week by week. But the pass rush, like I said, is something that has to get fixed. The run game for the Colts was there. Jonathan Taylor wound up turning it up in the second half, had a lot of big runs and a lot of yards after contact. And good runs week after week, man. He's just getting stronger and faster each week. A lot of people have him in MVP considerations, which they should because he's the best running back in football right now. Argue with the wall. Give credit where credit's doing that. But the Cardinals on third down, going into the fourth quarter, they was perfecting the third down rate. Like, they struggled in third downs before this game, but this game, what Jacoby said, they were dissecting on third down. So that was a huge issue for the Colts going into the fourth quarter. A lot of penalties, a few penalties for both sides. It was balanced out. The Cardinals got in their own way. They had a chance to win this game, but they just got in their own way. Boneheaded decisions, man. It is what it is at the end of the day. But like I said, the offensive line for the Cardinals did their job. The offensive line for the Colts did their job. Daniel Jones was getting the ball out quick, just like Jacoby. Both of those guys was dissecting both defenses. Like I said, the defense for both sides of the ball was just anybody was getting picked apart. That's why it was so high scoring. Both teams put up almost 40 points. Unacceptable performances for both sides. But like I said, the Colts found a way to get the job done to win. Daniel Jones, we relied on him to wheel us down the field and get us in the end zone, and he wound up doing so. And then we wound up running the clock out with Jonathan Taylor at the end. After that red zone stop from the Cardinals, they couldn't get nothing. Ball got swatted. Good coverage. Little handsy, but it is what it is. They didn't call anything. And the Colts wound up getting the dub, which is all that matters at the end of the day. Zaire Franklin, I think he had a solid game besides the boneheaded penalty. He still played pretty good. A lot of people was just talking crazy on social media after the flag when the unnecessary reference, but they look away from his performance in general. I think Zaire was all over the field, had a phenomenal game. This was the debut of Jermaine Pratt. He had a solid game as well. Got to give credit where the credit is due. Of course, this is his first game. A lot of people say, oh, he should know Lou's system. Like I said, he had a rough patch, but I think in solid dude, we already knew what the weak side linebacker position was going to look like. But I think he was a huge upgrade from what we're used to seeing. So we give credit where credit is due with Jermaine Pratt. Nick Cross had a solid game. Got to give credit to him. Neville Gallimore, I say he had a solid game. He played some good football today. So definitely give credit to him. Amir Abdullah had one good run when he first got in the game early in the half after Jonathan Taylor went out. He had a big run for 7 yards. Definitely was a spark plug. Josh Downs had a good game. He was just all over the field. Alec Pierce, his first game back, had a solid game. Give credit where credit is due to him. He was he had some big catches, man. Big catches, man. So it was definitely missed. Definitely needed him. Not seeing A.D. Mitchell is a question with the disciplinary actions. Hopefully we see him next week and gets the test with the Chargers. It's going to be a big game, so we're going to need him for sure. Michael Pittman Jr. was looking really solid on the blocking. Had 2 good catches, but blocking-wise, he's perfecting that. Marley Cox had a big catch. Tyler Warren is just a beast, man. He's looking like the best tight end in football. A lot of people are arguing that, and he's definitely showing it. Like his blocking, his technique, his catches, he had a few big grabs this week against the Cardinals, man. You can't discredit the Cardinals. Besides the record of what they have on the paper, that's a solid football team, man. They're a few pieces away, but on defense, they have a very solid defense, and that's what's keeping them in the game. And that's what I mentioned in the preview video. Their defense is definitely a good defense, and this was what keeps them in the game. Now, of course, the fourth quarter collapse is all on the offense, but on the defense, on paper, they have a very solid defense. Run defense is nice. Of course, Taylor's going to get his regardless, but pass rush was good, and their secondary was everywhere. Buda Baker could have walked the game away with that interception if he caught it. So a lot of people are taking that in the fact, but Sampson had a pretty decent game. Cam Bynum had pretty good coverage on Trey McBride, stopping a big touchdown that could have probably changed the game. McBride getting into the red zone and getting the ball swatted out. He got like a tiptoe animation on the sideline in the red zone, but Cam Bynum was all over him, swatting the ball out. So give him credit where credit is due. Alawore had a nice game, pretty good on pressure, so give him credit as well. The special teams was pretty decent. Shout out to Michael Bagley for making his field goals, and Rigoberto Sanchez had a pretty good punt day. But the Colts wound up finding a way to win. Besides the situation of them being down players, they still found a way. So this is a very resilient team, man. This is something that we need to see moving forward. Like I said, each week is going to get harder. You got a target on your back with the record you have. They're still undefeated at home, playing good football, and that's all you can ask for from this team. Very solid performance. Had a roller coaster of emotions, but the only thing that matters is walking away with a dub. And that's what they did. So we got to give our hats off to the defense for holding on and fighting still, regardless of what they were going through the whole game. They fought and held their own at the end when it mattered. And Daniel Jones wound up walking us down the field, staying poised, regardless of the interception that he threw earlier. He stayed poised and still was throwing some very beautiful footballs through traffic. A lot of passes that looked like they could have been picked off, but it wasn't. But he played a good game, man. So, and this is what we needed from him. We needed Daniel Jones to step up this week. I mentioned in the preview video that the run game might not be existent, so Daniel Jones will have to will us to victory. And I think it's going to come down to this. No. But I did mention that Daniel Jones will probably have to will us to victory this week. And he wound up doing so. And we got to give credit where credit is due. He's playing good football. Hopefully he can keep it up. And we're going to see what happens moving forward next week. And there's so hopefully we get some players back. Hopefully these guys can stay healthy throughout the week. Don't do anything to hurt yourselves. Take it light, man. Take it easy. So we'll be back with the preview video to talk about the Chargers moving forward. But this is the reaction to the game. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Follow me on all platforms. Appreciate you guys. This is Culture Shock. Until next time, have a good rest of the weekend. Stay safe and enjoy the week. Have a good week.